Today, we talk about borrow, buy, die. How the wealthy move money without paying taxes.
Vlogging pod starts like a conversation. Cup of coffee with no destination. Just voices trying to understand what's happening across this land. From your stories told to the pages turned. Every question, every word, supported by SheSharesStudios.net.
Hello, and welcome to the Vlogging Pod. Today, we're talking about something that sounds like a slogan, but it's actually a financial strategy, quietly, shaping how wealth moves in America. It's called borrow, buy, die. Now, before we get into how it works, we need to understand something important. This strategy didn't come from one law. It didn't come from one decision. It was even designed on purpose. It came from 3 separate tax rules, created decades apart, each with a reasonable purpose at the time. And when those 3 rules came together, they created something very different from what was originally intended. So let's just break this down in a little bit of plain language. First rule, loans are not income. This is very simple. If you borrow money, the government doesn't tax it. Why? Because you have to pay it back. It's not considered profit. It's not considered earnings. It's just borrowed money. And this rule wasn't created to help the wealthy avoid taxes. It was created so everyday people could take out mortgages, car loans, business loans without being taxed just for borrowing money. That part, makes sense. Second rule, you only pay taxes on gains when you sell. This is what we call capital gains. And this goes all the way back to the early 1900s when the United States first started income tax. At first, gains from investments were treated just like regular income. But over time, lawmakers realized something. If people were taxed every time their investments increased in value, even if they didn't sell them, it would be extremely complicated and unfair. So they created a system where you're only taxed when you actually sell the asset. That means if you buy something and it grows in value, you don't owe taxes yet. Only when you sell it does the tax come due. Again, reasonable on its own. Now, the third rule, and this is where things really start to change. Step up in basis at death. This rule says that when someone passes away, the value of their assets to whatever they're worth at that moment. Let's say someone bought stock for $100,000, and by the time they pass away, it's worth $1 million. Normally, if you sold that, you'd owe taxes on the $900,000 gain. But under this rule, when the asset is passed to their heirs, the value resets to $1 million. So if their heirs sell it right away, there's little to no taxable gain. So here's why the rule was created. It wasn't designed as a loophole. It was created to solve problems. One, to prevent families from being taxed twice. One, through estate taxes, and again, through capital gains. 2, because tracking the original purchase prices of assets held for decades can be extremely difficult. And 3, to keep families from being forced to sell inherited property just to pay taxes. Again, reasonable on its own. But now let's put it all together. You buy assets, stocks, and real estate businesses, and they grow in value. You don't sell them, so you don't pay taxes. Instead, you go to a bank and you borrow money using those assets as collateral. That loan isn't taxed because it's not income. You live off that borrowed money while your investments keep growing. And then when you pass away, those assets reset in value. So the gains that build up over your time or your lifetime may never be taxed at all. That's borrow, buy, die. And here's the key point. None of this is illegal. This is not tax evasion. This is not tax code working exactly as it's written. Each rule was created for a reason. Each rule made sense at the time. But together, they create a system where the outcome can look very different depending on how much wealth you already have. And that's why you'll hear this discussed more today, especially as a conversation grows around fairness, tax policy, and how wealth moves across generations. Because this isn't about one person, it's about the system functions when the pieces are combined. And once you see it, you can't really unsee. Today's sources come from Buy, Borrow, Die Strategy Explained for 2026 from Instead. History of Taxation in the United States, Wikipedia. How Wealthy Households Use a Buy, Borrow, Die Strategy, DS Physical Policy Institute. Step Up in Basis Explained, Tax Project. Stepped Up Base Overview, Wikipedia. How Congress Can Address Buy, Borrow, Die, National Taxpayers Union Foundation. Thank you for listening. Until next time, bye-bye for now.